Hello, everybody. It's Grizzly from Lexington, Kentucky, around the world, coast to coast. It's me. I'm back again with another live podcast. I got Nick Mulae with me, an awesome guest. Hurry up and grab a drink. Relax. Sit back. We're going to get into some deep conversations. And this time with Nick, we have no time limit. So however long Nick wants to talk, we're going to rock it. Just remember, ladies and gentlemen, the phones are not active. Do not call in on the show today. So we're going to have some fun with Mr. Nick. So, Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing wonderful. Doing wonderful. So tell me a little about yourself.
Just before I do, it seems like there's an echo coming from your side.
My side?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's why I'm holding my headphones like that. There's some big echo or something.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, it's still going on. Yeah, I'm here. I'm hearing the testing. 1, 2, 3 right now.
Nothing has changed on my board.
Let me see if I can mute my mic quickly just to make sure if it wasn't coming on my.
Sure.
No, it's not coming from me.
Can you hear me normal still?
I can still hear you normal. There's just some echo that will follow after like 10 seconds or so.
Well, let me check my settings.
I think it might be fixed because after you said that, the last thing you said, I didn't hear it repeat itself. So it might be fixed now.
Testing.
Oh, wait, nope. Wait, nope. It just came back. I'm sorry. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Okay, you know what? Actually, I figured out what happened. I'm sorry. It wasn't coming from your side. It turned out because I had the YouTube link of our show, and it was repeating after
I got you.
what you were saying. I had it up the night before. I forgot to take it down, so I apologize.
Okay. I was like, usually my equipment's spot on, but hey, every once in a while, ladies and gentlemen, I'll make a mistake. So, Nick, introduce yourself. I'm real curious about you.
Yeah, so obviously, yes, my name is Nick Mulae. I'm a paranormal investigator. I've been a paranormal investigator now for 17, almost 18 years, since I was 12 years old. Yeah, since I was 12 years old. And how I actually got into it, believe it or not, even though I've done it for 17, almost 18 years, it actually goes a little bit further back, even as a young child. For me, it wasn't necessarily, unlike most people who get into the field, is usually because of an experience that they had. For me, it was different. It wasn't from an experience. It was more of kind of curiosity, if you will. It was growing up, obviously, because I was born in 1993, so growing up in the mid to late 90s, even when we were still very young, my parents were nice enough to let us watch the X-Files, which at that time, was still relatively brand new. So, and there were some pretty violent episodes. So again, I'm surprised they got to let us. Yeah, I'm surprised they got to let us watch it at such a young age. But at that time, it not necessarily gave me a full interest in paranormal, but it did eventually get me involved into an interest, because I obviously, with someone like me, as you can see from my shirt, I grew up also watching horror films.
Yeah.
So I'm still a huge fan of it. But the first show that I think I really watched that had something to do with the paranormal in it, I really believe it. I really was fascinated by it. Was this was now 20 years ago. You remember the show Scariest Places on Earth at all? Or yeah, we used to watch that almost every Friday night when it used to come on, especially when it was around Halloween. And again, that was just such a show that even though I didn't really understand the whole process of it, that was probably the earliest example where I got to learn, what kind of paranormal investigating was. But I didn't take it as much seriousness as I do now. So fast forwarding a couple years later, and I have to admit, this was still back in the day, as I would call the pre-Ghost Adventures days.
Right.
Where, I just happened to be scrolling through the channel one Friday night, and I came across this show on the Travel Channel back when the Travel Channel used to show paranormal programming only on Friday nights.
Right.
A lot of the shows they don't show anymore, sadly, which is a shame because the older ones are always the best.
Right.
I came across this show that was called Most Haunted. I thought, oh, check, what's this? What's this? What is this? So that immediately got my attention. And it seemed like from that moment forward was when I really head on started getting involved in the paranormal field. And that's when I started learning a lot. I started, of course, obviously as a young kid, that also got me involved in a subject that I never thought twice I'd be interested in. And that would be history. So over the years, I basically kind of climbed through the ranks, if you will. By the time I got in high school, two things. By the time I was 14 years old, I was already starting. I was going on investigations, but they were just like, part-time investigations. They weren't like all-night ones. But that same age, I also formed actually my own paranormal club in high school. And believe it or not, 15 years later, it's still running to this day. So the club is still alive and well after I founded it in 2007. And a couple years later, fast forwarding, by the time I was 17 years old, I went on my very first all-night investigation. And
wow.
The investigation I had that night, that was, although I started at an early age, this was probably the one where it really kind of put me to where I am today. And the location I went to was, and what could have been a better way to have a full career, like start a career this way, was at Waverly Hill Sanatorium.
Oh yeah, that's a good place.
Yeah, it was an amazing location. Funny enough, it was actually just I did the investigation literally a week after I started my senior year in high school. So it was, what better way to start off the school year than have a debut for something like that. And I actually did capture a lot of it on video, which to this day, I haven't even seen all of the footage, but hopefully one day I'll be able to see what we captured, and I might actually even turn it into a documentary. So if that answers your question, you're like how I got involved in it. It's it's quite a story.
It is, and I'm going to blow the socks off your feet. My mom used to work there.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And she worked there when it was a caregiving place. I can't think of the name. Somebody will pop up here and tell me. I remember as a child, I'm only 48. I remember as a child, I used to go in there with my dad, and I always got bubble gum out of this machine when he walked up the steps in the main entrance. And the halls were so huge, being a young child. And we actually lived right down the road from it. We lived off of West Pages, not East Pages.
Oh, and
wow. My mother, as she grew up, she used to play in the tunnel chute with her friends.
Oh, the body chute, yeah.
The body chute, yeah. So, a lot of people are like, are you serious? I'm like, yeah. So I think the first one on TV that I remember that actually visited that place was Zach Baggins. And somebody from Things. Hello, guys. Hello. How are you doing?
That's most likely Jeremy watching.
Yeah. Yeah. they were in shock. They're like, I can't believe that. So I recorded it on the DVR in my back bedroom where I slept. And my parents come over. I was like, Mom, I got to show you this. She's like, what? I said, I got to show you this show. And she says, well, maybe later. I'm like, Mom, I need to show you this. So I started the show. She's like, really? A ghost show? I mean, come on. And when she saw it was Waverly Hills, she was in like upset mode.
Really?
The building degraded, the windows knocked out, the paint peeling. The last thing she remembers, it was a functional place, a workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And she had a rough time with hi, Jeremy.
Yeah, Jeremy.
Hope you're doing okay. I've been thinking about you. But, her seeing the place for when she was there compared to what is now, it really shocked her and it really upset her because she worked there for I don't know how many years. So It was very interesting. And when right before the owners that are in court battling for it right now took over, the previous owners sought out people that used to work there to be interviewed. And I told my Mom, you got to go. You got to go. I don't want to be on TV. I'm like, Mom, you got to be interviewed. You are a part of history of Waverly Hills that people don't know about. People want to hear your story and so forth. But she never did do it.
Right. Well, the other thing, what's kind of ironic about the episode and I was going to say Jeremy kind of actually saved the trouble. Actually, I think it was Ghost Hunters that I think was there first before Ghost Adventures did. But what was ironic about when they showed up at Waverly Hills, it was, I didn't even know it at the time, but when we showed up, because it was in August of 2010, it was a few months after they showed up. So when I went to Waverly first before I saw the episode, and I kind of laughed briefly because the guy that they were interviewing, like, holy cow, that's the same guy that we were with. So, but I have to admit though, yeah, I mean, it's because I was recently at Waverly Hills last year with Jeremy, as well as a lot of the people from, the other network we used to be a part of. Right. And I have to admit, I am just amazed of how much they were able to really put a lot of work and restoration and fixing out the place. Because when I was there in August of 2010, at that time, 17-year-old me, I didn't really think too much about it because I was already familiar with such locations. At that time, back then, it was in still really bad shape. There were some windows that were placed, but for the most part, there was broken glass all over the place. There was dust. There was parts of ceilings falling. Your typical appearance of how an abandoned haunted building looks. And I still remember this. The one thing, of course, I remember more than anything was that the stairway, you couldn't even get up the stairs. Like they literally had it fenced off, and because there would be part of a stairway hanging down. Like you tried stepping, you're going down. That's wow. It. So it was in really bad shape. And when I came back there basically over a decade later, I mean, walking through it, my eyes were just huge because it had been cleaned up. It looked like as if someone just not only vacuumed, but actually wiped down the entire place. Windows were put up. The stairway that I avoided a decade ago that was said to be extremely dangerous, I was now walking on.
Oh, wow.
It was just an incredible look, just looking back at how it looked 12 years ago and now. And like I said, I was fortunate enough that back in 2010, we did manage to capture a lot of it on. We had an old-fashioned video camera, the old-fashioned ones that had a little cassette tape that you put in. Oh yeah. And even though nobody uses them anymore, it did have something. It did have an addition to it. It did have night vision. So I would say a few months after when we had that investigation, we we did see a little bit of the footage of what we captured that night, because you have to remember this was back in the day also when we didn't have Facebook Live, so I couldn't do this with my friends at that time. So, but we for some reason whatsoever, we only saw about an hour of that footage, but we know there's a lot. I filmed the majority of it, so you can pretty much say we only saw perhaps only about 10% of that footage, and I do believe we did capture some stuff, but I honestly think there's a lot more that is still waiting to this day for us to check out. I'm actually hoping that if I did capture something extraordinary, I've already planned on trying to put together a documentary about it. Like, because my story about Waverly from that time I was there, it is featured in a book. I should have brought. In fact, I should have brought it with to kind of show it to you. It's I don't know if you know who Mike Ricksecker is. Is that name right? He runs something called Haunted Road Media. I've been good friends with him for a couple of years. Actually, as a matter of fact, just thinking about it, he would make a good guest on your show eventually. But he has these different books. He's written different books, but he does these compilation books called Encounters of the Paranormal. And he had offered me, along with a friend of his, to write down our own stories to be featured in his book. So if you ever do get the book, which is Encounters of the Paranormal Volume 5, or excuse me, I think it was Volume 4, my mistake. My story is actually called The Paranormal Career Begins. And it tells all the details from that first night of the investigation I was there.
Well, that's neat. Ironically, I'm also watching the Death Tune movie, or Death Tunnel movie.
Yeah, that the Booth brothers had made.
Yeah, but no, that's actually amazing. I actually have a friend of mine that I didn't know that used to work security up there.
Oh, really?
And I can tell you this: he didn't last long.
Oh. I don't blame him.
Yeah, he said too much was happening that he couldn't handle, or could explain. So, I mean, I could imagine walking that building by myself with the flashlight.
Yeah,
I'm scared of the dark. I'm not going to lie, ladies and gentlemen.
See, I'll be honest with you. When going back to my first, my investigation debut, if you will, most people would think, for someone at only 17 years old, I would have been really scared. I mean, truth be told, I was a little bit nervous, but I think it was more about like anything else. I didn't know what I was going to expect that night. But the first thing that, man, what was it like to experience something like really paranormal for the first time in a place like that? The first thing that happened there that night was we happened to be on the 4th floor of the building, which they said that's where a lot of shadow people are seen. And this was captured on video, so you could hear my reaction too. But the guy tells us, saying, it would probably be best if you have your flashlights turned off. So we turned the flashlights off. I still have the camera rolling, and I have the night vision on. And about a minute after we turn them on, that's when I start seeing movement, in the dark. And
no. I'm out.
Well, for me, my eyes are getting adjusted. My eyes are getting adjusted to it, and all of a sudden, I start seeing these, different figures going all different directions. Some are going to the right, some are going to the left, some are coming towards us, others are going away from us. And in the video,
I'm not square dancing with them.
Well, for me, you hear it. Well, in the video, you hear this gasp coming from me. You're probably thinking, he's got to be freaking out seeing this, right? No, that wasn't a gasp. That was not a gasp of fright. It was actually a gasp of excitement, because it's like, I can't believe I'm actually seeing this. Like, because before, I mean, trust me, even though I was already doing this stuff prior, I was already believing into a lot of this. I thought, you know what? In order for me to become a true full believer, I had to have my own paranormal experience, but I need to see it head on. It was like almost like as if I'm talking like for a horror film. It's like I really don't want to, hear another scratch or, it's like the way how I would say, like if I was making a horror film, I really don't want to see, another cat jumping out of the trash can, the hand on the shoulder, the voice on the telephone. I've already experienced a lot of that. I want to see something head on. It was looking back, it was almost like as if the building knew what I was trying to look for, and it gave it, and these entities made it known to me right away. So
that's crazy.
It's crazy. But the one thing I'll never forget out of that experience was that I thought at that time I knew all of the ghost stories associated with that place, but there was one that I happened to miss, because among the figures that I saw, I mean, to this day, I still don't know how many I exactly saw, because again, they were going all different directions. So some of them could have been the same entity. They all look the same. But there was one in particular that was crawling on the ground. And I didn't realize at that time that there was this additional story about what was called the creeper. And
I'm out.
Yeah.
Peace, dude.
I was even thinking to myself, why is that one crawling compared to the other ones? Because the way how these figures were moving, I wouldn't even necessarily say they were walking. They were kind of more gliding. I just thought this one was crawling. And it wasn't until, again, I saw the Ghost Adventures episode that they explained about the creeper. It's like, again, my eyes went wide, and I realized that night I probably had seen the creeper.
Wow. You're one of the lucky ones. I hear a lot of people go there. I hear a lot of experiences they have. I hear a lot of experiences they don't have. And like I tried to tell the ladies and gentlemen that's watching the live show, it's not like a light switch where you can flip it on and things are going to happen.
Right.
Sometimes you have to wait and let it come to you. A matter of fact, like some of the fishing shows that people watch in a half hour, they're catching fish every 15 seconds. But in reality, it's 3 days worth of film crammed into, 24 minutes, not counting the commercials to show you what they're actually catching. So
that's what I tell a lot of people who want to get into this field. Like they look at, and it's not even just the reality stuff. I mean, it's the movies, some of the TV shows, but even a lot of these other paranormal reality shows that exist. They make it almost look like they make it almost look like something is happening like almost every 5 minutes.
Right.
And it's, that's not the case. I tell people saying, well, it looks like they're encountering something every 5 minutes, but in reality, it may be something every 5 hours. So,
Right.
people will always have that. Cracked Skull, that's Brad. He's watching. That's what people don't understand about paranormal shows. They film for a week and just get 30 minutes of footage. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, they see these newcomers or people who are curious about, they see the shows, they think there's like this adrenaline feeling that's going on because sometimes they add music to it, make it sound like you look at a show like I mentioned, Scariest Places on Earth. They were the kind of show that they would often do that they would cut a lot of the footage out and leave the stuff where people are encountering something, they're screaming, they're getting scared to death. They have this music playing. It looks like as if like people will think to themselves, man, that looks like so intense and it almost looks like fun. But I always tell people when you deal with the real reality of investigating, as much as I hate to tell them this, but this is just true. I tell them 90% of paranormal investigating is usually boring. You go to these places, you spend several hours, and for the most part, nothing happens. For my encounter though, like that story I just told you about Waverly, that was, I would say, just pure luck. It's really that kind of thing where you have to be at the right place at the right time. And I just happened to be very lucky that night.
Yeah. Things Network. I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of profound experiences there. And Darcy says 100% agree.
Yep.
Well, it's here's a couple factors I looked at. Number one, nobody's an expert. Everybody theorizes everything. And I sent you a link that I thought I sent you a link the other night. We'll explain that a little bit later. But people really don't realize what it takes to be a paranormal investigator.
Exactly.
What time is involved in it. Not only the time, but the downtime for incidents or occurrences to occur or EVPs to happen or anything. Like I said, it's not like a light switch you can flip on or off and voila, I'm here. Show me everything, And that's one thing I liked about Zach Bagans is that they would run around and scream and run on foot and run into things. And, it was more entertainment than anything, but it made me laugh.
Yeah, see, and I'll be completely honest with you. I mean, I know a lot of people have different views about, Zach Bagans and Ghost Adventures. Sadly, I don't really like them as much anymore like I used to. Like, don't get me wrong, their first couple seasons are still the best. Growing up at an early age, I used to watch them, but just the way how he is now, it's really changed. But yeah, back in the first couple seasons, and when Nick used to be around, it was not only just about the investigations. There were times they'd scream. There would be other times they'd be laughing. They were having fun. And that's how I always pictured investing. I mean, yes, we still have to have our moments of being very serious about it, especially if you're at a residential location. But, that's kind of the fun of, sometimes investigating is even if nothing happens, you got to try to do something. You got to do something to make it fun for yourself. And that's what some people don't realize. In fact, I can give you a good example was for the longest time, because I'm sure I'm from Chicago, Illinois. I've helped out with the Chicago Ghost Tours that was ran by Ursula Bielski. I don't know if that name is familiar to you, but she was considered the paranormal queen of Chicago. She doesn't really do it as much anymore like she used to, though. But I remember 3 years ago, I was helping out with one of the tours, and as we're walking through this area that was said to be haunted, this was like one of the daylight tours, so it wasn't one of the nighttime ones. And we always usually would give that message to everybody saying, not everything always occurs at night. Some of these locations, some of the most active and activity to occur, sometimes will occur in broad daylight. So I always would have to remind people, you don't have to wait till nighttime. It could happen any time of the day or night. But as we're walking, I couldn't help but hear these people behind me. I'm talking with one of the other. I'm talking with one of the other guys that was helping, one of the volunteers, and I hear these people behind me, and they're like, "Geez, we've been going on for like this." They said something like, "Man, we've been going on for like this for an hour, 2 hours, or whatever it is, and we haven't had any experiences. And I paid all this money for this. This is bull." And just hearing that, I'll be honest, it just disgusted me. And I was just about ready to turn around and say, well, you know what? If you're not going to, there's not always a guarantee to these things. And if you're not happy with it, then just go wait at the back of the bus and just wait for the rest of us. I mean, I really wanted to say that, but that was not my place of business. And I didn't want to create a scene, but that's just what some people fail to realize is that just because you're going on a tour or an investigation, there's not always a guarantee that something's going to happen. If something happens, great. If not, well, at least we tried. It's like you said, it's like fishing. It's like a baseball game. It's just like, we're always familiar with that term. Just better luck next time.
Yeah. And Crack Skull says, for some reason, I can't see it. He says 99% of the time, a paranormal investigator, you're actually sitting in the dark, just talking to yourself.
Exactly.
And things being at a location is only a small fraction of being a paranormal investigator, and you're right. And Crack Skulls come back. We made it fun. You always got to have to make it fun. I'm all about having fun.
Yeah, Brad and I did when we were at Ohio State Reformatory. That was a fun night. And we didn't really, we had a couple things occur. It wasn't anything like completely extraordinary, like where something huge happened in front of us. But either way, even when we made it fun for us that night. So that was my first time ever meeting Brad in person. It was definitely great to investigate with him.
Yeah, it is. And Things Network, when people ask me what I think of Zach as an investigator, my response is the same. Zach is a great showman and entertainer. It's what I said earlier. And Jill's got a bunch of emojis and stuff.
What's up, Jill? Good to see you.
Crack Skull says hi, Gill. So, but and that's one of the things that people fail to realize is that it doesn't happen on cue.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff that I know that experienced investigators missed because they are goofing off or talking and not recording or watching something, and they miss it. And it's like, oh my God,
there were a few times that sometimes we had that happen to us, like where something incredible would occur, and then these people were goofing off, and they didn't have their cameras ready or their recorders ready.
Yeah. And when it comes to the paranormal, I notice a lot of things, and I want to give a shout out to all the admins and moderators. All my love goes out to you for letting me share my live network through your groups. Thank you. I really greatly appreciate it. My love goes to you. But speaking of groups, I see that people have different theories and different views on the paranormal, which is not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I disagree with is the SS, which I mean by that is, for you to belong in this group, you must believe in this, and this. That's it.
Right.
But when I do interviews that people like you have done investigations on, gives me feedback that is different from what their beliefs are, but get the same feedback from other interviewees. There's more to it. There's different sides of it.
Right.
And people need to think about that and think outside the box. Scientists has always told us what does and does not exist. What we heard, we did not hear. What we see, we have not seen. Right. And then we got monsters washing up on beaches across the country and the globe, and they bury them right away on the beach, the city or the government does, with the backhoe. And I'm like, wait a minute, where's the flatbed truck and the crane?
Exactly.
Take it to the lab. Let's figure it out. But, it's strange. I mean, it's paranormal, however you look at it.
Absolutely.
You want to call them monsters? I'll call them monsters. We have Kentucky goblins.
You guys have the Hopkinsville.
Yep. Yeah. And
I know you guys also have. Sorry. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say you guys also have too your own because it seems like every state always has a different version of Bigfoot. You guys have your own Bigfoot, I know, out there. I remember hearing
Goat Man,
and
in Louisville.
I remember also you guys have the I know there's something, I know it's not as well known. I know there's something called the they call it the Hillbilly Beast or the Geneva Giants out in eastern Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people, if you believe in this, whatever we're talking about, you have to be open-minded on this other creature, monster, or paranormal thing, because there's some validity to it, because it's folklore, it's been passed down, like Bigfoot. And the last gentleman I was interviewing, it seems like the people that had the family that had the land for generations knew about Bigfoot, grew up with Bigfoot. Bigfoot was around them. They fed Bigfoot, corn, so they wouldn't steal their hogs. So, it's amazing. It's not like you can draw a line in the sand and say, well, that's not real. I don't believe in that. Well, you know what? You better stop and think and step back a little bit and reconsider that. Because there's a lot of things that I think don't exist, but people are seeing them.
I have to agree with you on that because believe it or not, like, for example, a creature like Bigfoot, people would always think, especially for where I live, people would think, how could there be Bigfoot in Illinois? Well, there actually is. In fact, I've been down there a few times, although I haven't been further inland, if you will, to really check this out. But as much as, don't get me wrong, I love Chicago. We got a lot of haunted locations throughout the northern part of the state. But in my opinion, I think the southern part of Illinois is actually a lot more haunted. And a lot of those creatures, including Bigfoot, are rumored to live down that area. Because, like, if you look at our entire state, from the north side and the south side, the north side of the state, the north part of the state is more populated. I mean, there still are a lot of rural areas, but it's not even just Chicago. We got it's a heavily populated area. When you go further from the center and then down to the state of Illinois, it's a lot more farmland. It's more rural, and when you have not as many people living there, that is quite an area in which it can be the perfect area for unknown creatures to live and hide in. In fact, the crescent of southern Illinois has long been referred to as Little Egypt. And the reason why they call it that is, anyone, for example, like anyone who reads the Bible attentively knows very well that Egypt does not get good press. It's a region of darkness and superstition. And that goes,
ladies and gentlemen, Grizzly did not bring up the Bible first and religion this time. Well, they usually nail me on it.
But that goes the same for Southern Illinois. There's just a lot of unusual things, and that's the one that we have in our case with Bigfoot. It's actually known as the Big Muddy Monster or the Murfreesboro Mud Monster. The reason why it's not only just for its very muddy looking appearance. There's actually a river that runs alongside that's Murfreesboro called the Big Muddy River. It runs just outside of Murfreesboro. It's also in a tributary river to the Mississippi River. So the majority of the sightings I heard was mostly from the 70s and 80s. There really hasn't been much, but I've actually been trying to go down there to try to do some kind of investigation to see if people are still reporting it. So, and this was something that really only occurred for an extended period of time before all the sightings just stopped abruptly. Now, yes, we saw that a lot in other states too, especially throughout the 70s. But this was just unusual, especially for a state like ours. So, but either way, we have our own version of Bigfoot too. I mean, it has been recently cited as far as I know, but it's just like every state has its own version of it. And we just happen to have, this is our version.
And you're true. And my opinion, my theory only, is I think that occurrences still happen.
Yeah.
But people do not report them because they are afraid to be ridiculed and made fun of.
Mm-hmm.
And that ties me into two things I'm going to bring up. Some of these groups, like mine, I do not allow trolls, negative comments, any emojis of any types. On my group, I have law enforcement, retired law enforcement, paramedics, psychics, mediums, and a few civilians. And like I said, I'm working on the preacher tonight. He a preacher that does paranormal stuff. He wants to have a meeting. So I'm trying to have a well-diverse team. But people see little Johnny post things, their encounters or their stories that happened to them, whether it was last week or when they were a child, and seeing them being chastised and being made fun of, that shows little George. Well, the hell with that. I'm not posting. I don't want to be made fun of. So it brings up two things. In my groups, like I said, we don't allow it. And plus, you can hit a button and post anonymously in there to where nobody knows who you are. You won't leave your name or contact information. They'll just leave what you posted. And one night I couldn't sleep, Nick. And I was up at 6 o'clock in the morning, still couldn't sleep. And what was on my mind was all these Facebook groups and communities that are into the paranormal that don't share evidence with each other, don't share encounters, don't share stories amongst themselves. I belong to 905 groups. Not all of them are paranormal. I own several other Facebook groups.
Mm-hmm.
And, I want to hear the EVPs. I want to see the footprints. I want to hear the howls and growls and,
right.
and stuff that you get recorded or captured on recording. And with that being said, I thought to myself, how could I try to bring a community together, whether it's just admins or members of other groups, to share their trick of the trade or the tools they use to help somebody else out, because they may not know. You may do something that somebody else doesn't know what to do or how to do it.
Right.
And they're like, damn, Nick does that. I'm going to try it. Maybe it'll work for me, right?
Exactly.
So with that concept being said, and I just sent you the link, I came up with the Facebook group.
I'm actually looking for it right now, actually.
No, that's great. I sent it to the wrong person.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was gonna say I don't see anything yet, but other than the StreamYard link, so it was the wrong person.
Yeah. They're probably like, who's this guy sending me this?
That explains why I couldn't find it.
Yeah, I mean, I do that stuff all the time. I'll be talking to one person and I'll send something to the wrong person. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm talking about this.
The worst part about that is when it's happened to me a few times too, but the worst part, what's even worse is that is like, if you have to send it like a message, like individually to someone, instead of sending it like as a whole group, like you're sending it privately, you copy and then you paste it and then you send it. But then you forgot to change the name of that person. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, what on earth are you talking about? Are you sure you're talking to the right person?
Yeah, and I get a lot of messages that are unsent for everyone.
That's happened to me too.
All right, I just sent you the link, and I was up to 7 o'clock something in the morning, and I thought, I know what I can do to help out, and it's up to the community to make it work, not to me. It's a place to where any group or members can share their videos, pictures, EVPs, or any evidence. And once you click on it, it's called Share Your Evidence Podcast, EVPs, Footprints, Howls and Growls. So people like you and other investigators can go and post there, whether you want to leave your name or not, it's up to you. And share what you capture or share your evidence with other members that seek out the same thing that you're doing and learn stuff from it.
Definitely.
Let me tell you something. Somebody puts a hologram out there or a bunch of EVPs, I'm all over it.
Right.
I'm sorry. I got to hear it. So that's just me. And I know it's a lot of people don't share that for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know if it's ridicule or being made fun of, bullying. I have no idea. I don't think I can do theorize. But I come with that group, and it's not even a week old, maybe a little over a week, and it's doing fairly well. Like I said, I have no control what direction it goes into. It's up to everybody. Just like I told the gentleman on the last show that, Nick, I hand selected you and picked you to come onto my show. I did my research on you, saw where you stood, where you stand, what you have done, what type of person you are. And I'm like, that's what I need. That's what I want.
That. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And that's why you're on my show. I'm very, very picky. Unfortunately, it's not unfortunately. I do a lot of shows, I really do. I mean, I don't know what number I'm up to right now, but I enjoy doing it. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy, hearing their encounters and stuff and sharing evidence and conversations and what you gone through and witnessed and done and stuff. And, and sometimes I'll pass that along to other people and they're like, really? I never thought about that. Yeah, I heard it from Nick. Nick says he tries it and he uses it, in his tool chest or toolbox.
Well, it's always a great feeling also to be handpicked because I actually made this announcement yesterday about this. I mean, what's even great about, when people choose, people like that, it's such a great feeling because then that you've done something that someone, has taken into consideration. And it's really going to be put to the ultimate test, actually back later this week, because if you didn't see my announcement that I made yesterday, for the first time ever, I'm actually going to be speaking. I'm going to be a speaker for the very first time at a
Paracon. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be the Chicago Paranormal Convention. It was kind of ironic when they called me because I was actually at another Paracon just about a month prior. I was at the Michigan Paracon, which was my very first time going to that one. Which, if you heard anything about it, I'll tell you right now, it is an awesome event. I know it's really expensive, but it's totally an event. It's an event that's totally worth going. I'm hoping to go next year, but keep my fingers crossed. But during the course of this event, I got a phone call from a guy by the name of Jack Chavez, who is another investigator here in Chicago, and he had asked me if I'd be interested in becoming a speaker at this event. Now, two things were running through my mind when he offered me this. I mean, it was something that I was like, wow, like this is awesome. Like he's handpicking me for this as well. But there were two problems I dealt with. One was, I don't know what I would be talking about. And second, well, truth be told, I have stage fright. So I wasn't sure really. I mean, yes, I know this was obviously an offer that I should jump at the chance immediately, but I was at that time, again, because there was so much going on with this event, at that time I had to think it over. So of course I said, well, let me call you back. So I said, I'm at the Michigan Paracon, wait till I get back home. So let me call you back then. So I waited.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's not. I think that you're going to go far in this field. Am I on for another show tonight? What? Oh yeah, of course. I got another show now.
Uh-oh.
That time flew that quick. So I'm gonna have to have you back on the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're nowhere near finished. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
We got a lot more to discuss. And unfortunately, I do all this by myself. The booking, the ads, the recordings, lives, postings, and it's hard for one person. And right. I think I do a little bit too much at one time. But we need to hook back up together and need to finish our discussion. But like I said, I do want you to know I did handpick you. I did my research and everything.
Okay.
And I liked your style. I liked everything which you consist of and stood for. And I knew it would be an awesome show. I really did.
Oh, I really appreciate you having me on. And I'm just going to say this quickly, just before we get off. If you would like to check out this presentation, I will say, in addition to doing this event, it will also be broadcasted live on 6 different networks. It's going to be broadcasted on Things Network, the PAC channel, podcasting for all coming together, Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment, Skeleton Key Network, BB3 TV, and RU Media Network. So it's going to be
awesome.
So that way, because I know there's a lot of other investigators from other states and other countries that definitely would love to see this. Of course, it's just 2-3 days away. There's just no way. So I'm saving everybody the trouble. We're going to have it broadcasted.
Man, that rocks.
It'll be 1 o'clock.
Look at you. Look how far you're going already.
1 o'clock. It'll be 1 o'clock Central Time. Will be that this will be going. I'll be speaking.
Well, that's awesome, brother. I'm glad to hear that. And ladies and gentlemen, you heard from Nick. So, Nick, how do they get a hold of you?
You can just simply find me on Facebook. I'm also on YouTube. Of course, like I said, you can find me on any of the networks I mentioned. We're now on, in addition to Facebook, we're also now on YouTube. We're on Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're going to soon eventually be having an account on TikTok. We might even possibly get another account, possibly, depending what Jeremy is planning to do to expand the network. So I'm basically all over the place. But if you want to find me personally, just find me on Facebook or YouTube. And my name is exactly the same as it says here on this video.
And I gave Jeremy a couple of groups to stream off of too.
Oh, awesome.
So, but no, man, it's been great. I'm sorry I was late. I'm sorry I'm cutting short.
No worries.
I thought you were my last one and we were going to rock it. But next week sometime, let's get together and figure out a date and time that works best for you. And I'm going to make sure we have at least minimum 2 hours. Hours not long enough.
Yeah, it's not. It's not.
It's not especially what I wanted to talk to you about and with. So, but everybody get a hold of Nick, Jeremy from Things Network. I love him to death. He's been on the show. He lets me stream live in his groups. Thank you, Jeremy. Hope you're doing okay and everything. And I've been thinking about you. And let's see here. Got still somebody saying hi, Gill. So, but no, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to be on the Grizzly show, all you have to do is email me at grizzlytheparanormal@gmail.com. That's Grizzly the paranormal@gmail.com. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again in the evening where we have to say goodbye. But I'm going live right after this. So from coast to coast and around the world, Nick rocked it tonight. He sure did. I love it.
Thank you again so much for having me.
With Grizzly, and it's never going to be a dull moment with both of us together. That's for sure. We both like to have fun, if you haven't noticed. But we have a lot more to discuss.
Absolutely.
A lot more to explore. And I look forward to our next live. And we will get together, like I said, sometime next week and plan out a date. And we will redo this. I got to have you back. There's so much more I want to ask you.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, just give me the shout out next week. And once you have a night in mind, I'll put it in the calendar.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great. Is there anything you'd like to say to everybody before we go?
Honestly, not too much, but I just want to say thank you so much for having me on tonight. This was great, man. And I definitely enjoyed this. So thank you so much. It's my honor, sir. It's my honor, my pleasure. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Grizzly must go and end the show. But I'm going live right after this, so stick around. And Mr. Nick, it's been a pleasure, and I'll see you back on the show here shortly. Sounds good. Everybody, take care and have a good night. Night.